Uh,
Okay, good morning to all of you. Is this slide visible? Anybody, please respond.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So sorry
Yes,
for
sir.
joining late. There are some work, and today will take a little bit more time because today's the slides are a little bit more, maybe 1.5 hours or up to 1 o'clock. Please bear with me. So the other days we are tight schedule. We have to finish within 1 hour. So today we may take 1.5 hours or something like that. Okay, so we have already seen about project scheduling, then resource scheduling or resource allocation we have seen. Next job is how to monitor the project, how to control the progress of the project. Okay, okay. So just 1 second, please. कबाटा बंद कर दिया. बंद कर दिया. Okay, so today we'll discuss about how to monitor and control the progress of the project. We'll discuss about little bit introduction on project monitoring and control. Then what is the project control cycle? Different reporting structure method. What are the different project reporting structures? How to assess the progress of a project? How to collect the progress details, then about how to handle partial completion reporting, and finally we'll discuss how to carry out project review. Okay. There are many things in the slides, actually easy self-reading kind of things. I will skip those things, but for your easy reference, I have included in the slides. You can read those things yourselves. So I have already told you we have finished about project scheduling and this resource scheduling or resource allocation. Then what should be done? So once the work schedules or the project schedules have been published and the project is started, then the project managers must pay attention on the progress of the project, how they can monitor or control the progress of the project. This requires what? This requires monitoring of what is happening, isn't it? You have to monitor the progress. So what you have to do? This requires monitoring of what is happening in the project during its development. You have to compare the actual achievement against what you have planned, against what you have scheduled, and wherever necessary, you have to revise the plans and the schedules to bring the project as far as possible back on target, because you are observing that the project is getting delayed. So you have to take remedial actions. You have to revise the plans, you have to revise the schedules to bring the project as far as possible back in order to meet the target, on the target. Okay. The project manager, he designates certain key elements. They are called as milestones. For example, one milestone might be completion of some important activity. After completing one activity, you can say that, okay, you have reached one milestone. Next, after completion of another activity, you can say you have reached another milestone, like that. So few examples of milestones are given, like if you have successfully prepared and reviewed the SRS document, okay, one milestone observed. Then or one milestone achieved. Then you have prepared successfully all the design documents such as DFDs and UML diagrams. Next milestone you have achieved. Then you have finished coding and unit testing. Next another milestone. Next you have prepared, you have completed the integration and system testing. Okay, another milestone. Okay, then you have reviewed or prepared all the user manuals, etc. Another milestone. So these are some examples of milestones. So the project manager, he has to designate these activities, maybe not some milestones. Once a milestone is reached, what the project manager has to do? The project manager can assume that, okay, some measurable progress has already been made. Now, if he sees that, okay, this target date is not matching to the schedule plan, then that means some delay is there. Then what he has to do? If any delay in reaching a milestone is predicted, he is anticipating, okay, there will be some delay due to some of the problems, like some of the employees have left or more holidays or things like that. If any delay in reaching a milestone is predicted or expected, then corrective actions, precautionary actions might have to be taken by the project manager, and this may entail reworking all the schedules or producing a fresh schedule. So if you are anticipating some delay will be there, so you have to take some corrective actions. This may require that you have to prepare the schedules again, maybe in press, or you have to revise the schedules that you have done in order to accommodate these kinds of delays, or in order to handle these kinds of delays. We have already seen POT chart, that is very much that is especially useful in monitoring and controlling the project of the progress. And in POT and CPM, we have already known about the critical path, and we have already told you earlier that it is very much necessary to identify all the critical paths in the schedule, because if any delay occurs along a critical path, any delay occurs in a critical activity, then the whole project, entire project would get delayed. That's why it is very much important to identify all the critical paths present in a activity network or in a schedule. This thing also I have already told you that there may be more than one critical path in a schedule. That is also possible, and the activities lying on the critical path are called closed critical tasks or critical activities. That also we have already known. So now what is the objective? The project manager must ensure that there is no delay in the critical activities or the critical tasks, because any delay in the critical tasks will lead to the delay in the whole project. Now, so the critical tasks, they need to be closely monitored, and corrective actions need to be taken, need to be initiated as soon as any delay is noticed. You have to, if you find that any delay is occurring in the critical tasks or critical activities, you have to immediately take corrective actions so that delay can be compensated if necessary, because you are finding that delay you are not able to control. So how to handle that thing, last class we have already discussed. For example, if necessary, the project manager may switch, may transfer or the staffs from a non-critical task to a critical task, so that all the milestones along the critical path can be met. Okay, isn't it? By transferring the staff from non-critical activity to critical activity, you can make so that this delay can be adjusted. Other actions I have already told you. Other alternatives are you can hire more manpower. Another alternative is that you can put your existing manpower to work in in overtime or in Saturdays, Sundays, other holidays, or beyond the office hours. Like that you can do so that this delay can be minimized. Several tools are available which can help the project manager to identify the critical paths in an on-schedule schedule. But figuring out an optimal schedule with resource limitations and with a large number of parallel tasks is a very hard problem. Like identifying or determining an optimal schedule with the limited resources and with a large number of parallel tasks is a very hard problem. Several commercial tools are available for automating the scheduling techniques. For example, in MS Office, you will see MS Project software is available on personal computers. Several open source tools I have told, such as Gantt chart, Project Libre. These are all open source tools that also you can use for scheduling, etc. Okay, don't do it in some tools that will minimize your effort, and the scheduling will be more appropriate. It will be more correct. In earlier classes, we have already discussed the importance of producing activity plans that can be monitored. Today, we will discuss how the information about the progress of the project can be gathered and what actions you should take to ensure that a progress is moving on time. A project, it will meet its targets. There will not be delay. The project will meet its delay. What kind of actions you should take so that you can ensure that the project is expected, is likely to meet its targets. Okay. So today we will see about the information, how they can be collected to know the progress of the project, and what corrective actions you should take so that you will ensure that the project will meet its targets. First, let's see how to create the framework for this project monitoring and control. exercising control over a project and ensuring that the targets are met. It is a matter of regular monitoring. You cannot say that only at the end of the project you will do this monitoring. No, it's a continuous activity. It's a regular activity. So you have to monitor the progress of the project regularly, maybe on every day or at least in every week. So exercising control over a project and ensuring that targets are met is a matter of regular monitoring. That is finding out what is happening and comparing it with the targets. There may be a mismatch between the planned outcomes and the actual ones. Possible. You have planned something, but actually you are not progressing accordingly. So there may be a mismatch between the planned outcomes and the actual ones. Then you have to replan, or then replanning may be needed to bring the project back on the target, to bring the project back to the schedule so that it can meet the target. So you might, for this you might have to replan. Okay. So since there might be some mismatch between the planned outcomes, okay, and the actual ones, possible. There may be mismatch between the planned outcomes and the actual ones. So then replanning may be needed to bring the project back onto the on the target. Alternatively, suppose every corrective action you have taken, you have replanned to bring the project back on target, but you are not getting success. What you have to do? Alternatively, target has to be revised. You have to extend the target. You have to revise the target. Okay. This is a simple model of the project control cycle. How does the project what control cycle works? So first you publish the initial plan. What is your initial plan regarding the project? You publish it. Then you gather information regarding the project. Gather project information. Then you compare the progress versus the targets. What is your target you have set and actually how you are moving? What is the progress? Compare the progress versus the targets. Then you see the output, whether it is satisfactory, you are meeting as per your plan, you are progressing as your plan, you are finding that, okay, I can meet the target. If it is satisfactory, go to the next step. Next step. So by this time, whether the project is completed, if yes, then terminate and project. Then you review the project, what you have learned, what lessons you have learned from your experience, review the project. Then whatever observation you got, you document them, document the conclusions, and then end of the control cycle. But if while you are comparing the actual progress versus the targets or the plans, if it is not satisfactory, what you have to do? You have to take remedial action. Several remedial action I have already told you. Bring staffs from non-critical activity to the critical activities, you can transfer them. You can second alternative, you can hire more manpower. Third alternative, you can tell your existing people to do overtime job like this. So take the appropriate remedial actions. And after doing this, again you have to publish the revised plan so that other people in your group, other people in organization, they should know. And then again you have to come to gather project information. Then this cycle will run. And if the project is not completed, again you have to just go to the gathering project information, and the same process will be continued. So this is a simple model of project control cycle, very easy to understand. Please have a look into this and read the details from the book. Whatever I have told, I have already explained here, so no need to explain all those things. Okay. So in practice, the project manager normally concerned with 4 types of shortfall. So while working in a project, in practice, the project manager normally concerned with 4 types of shortfalls. What are they? There might be delays in meeting the target dates. There can be shortfalls in the quality. Okay, there might be some poor quality. There might be shortfalls in quality. Inadequate functionality. You have developed a software. You are supposed to develop. You are supposed to incorporate 20 functionalities, but you have incorporated only 10 or 12 functionality, so inadequate functionality, and the most important, the cost going over project. You have tendered 10 lakhs for developing the project, but now at the end of the project you are observing that you are the target, the budget, the cost is going to increase more than 12 lakhs. So cost going over the target. So how to handle these things? So the project manager normally concerned with these 4 types of shortfalls. Okay. Now let's little bit see about the responsibilities. In a project team, who is responsible for what? The overall responsibility for ensuring satisfactory progress of on a project is very often it is the role of the topmost committee. Normally it is called as project steering committee or project management board. That committee or board that is responsible for ensuring satisfactory progress on a project. Then the day-to-day responsibility normally it lies with it rests with the project manager, and all other aspects of the projects they can be delegated to the different team leaders. Under the team leaders, then several other persons like coders, programmers, etc., designers may work. If you will arrange in a structure like thing, this will look like steering committee is the topmost authority for a project. The steering committee, under steering committee, one project manager will be there. Then the steering committee, he has to interact with the client. In some cases, they authorize the project manager to interact with the client. Under project manager, there are several team leaders, depending upon the aspect or this functionality the team will do. Like one team may do this analysis and design section. So under that team leader, some analysts or designers will be there. Under another team leader, there will some programmers will do who will look up the programming what aspects. So there is another group, quality control. Every organization has a quality control group. There is a head or team lead. Under this is some quality control analyst. They will be there. Another may be the documentation section. So user documentation section. So here there will be a team leader on that. Some persons staffs will be there. Maybe some non-technical persons maybe who may develop the documents for the different activities that you have made. So in this is a typical project reporting structure. Who will report to whom? We have seen the at the end level, like the analyst, designers, programmers, etc. They will report to the corresponding team leader. The team leader will report to the project manager, and the project manager will report to the steering committee. And to the client, either the steering committee or the project manager, they can interact with the client. Okay, either the steering committee or the project manager, they can interact with the client. So this thing already I have already told you, no need to explain. Please read yourself. As I have already told you, this is the reporting structure. That the analysts or designers or the coders, they will report to the team leader. Team leader will report to the project manager. Project manager will report to the steering committee. But what should the method of the reporting structure? How one employee can report to another employee? So how the reporting can be made among the employees? Reporting can be made, or it can be oral or written. It can be formal or informal. It can be regular or ad hoc. Any of the methods can be used for reporting. These things are what explained here with some examples. The first column shows the reporting type. As I have already told you, the reporting types could be oral or written, formal or informal, regular or ad hoc, or a combination of this. It is oral and formal, or oral and informal, formal and regular, like this. So the various combinations are written here. Some examples are written, and the comments like oral, formal, regular. It is all mixture of all these things, oral, formal, and regular. So examples are, it is oral and formal and regular. For example, if you are reporting weekly or monthly progress meetings, you call your employees who are working with him, you under you, or the what coders or the analyst working under you, you call them weekly and discuss regarding the progress of the meetings. That will be weekly. So you know that in our department, every year the students are assigned to a professor for this research project. So then the professor, what he does, every week calls each group of people, all the BTech, MTech, and the PhD students working in that project in every week, and monitor what you have done. They monitor the progress of their work done. So that is oral, formal, and regular. So weekly or monthly progress meetings. Example, and what is the comment? While the reports may be oral, okay, the reports might be verbal, oral, but formal written minutes should be kept. That's why you see any meeting is carried out, whatever is discussed at the end of the meeting, a minutes is prepared. And in that minutes is written what is the discussion made in the meeting, that those have been recorded. documented. That's the minutes of the meeting. So even if the or while the reports may be oral, but the formal written minutes should be kept. So similarly, others are easy. Just see like what is oral, formal, ad hoc, written, formal, regular, written, formal, ad hoc, oral, informal, ad hoc. These are all easy things. So no need to explain it what thoroughly. So please read yourself. Any doubt you can ask me in the next class. Then the next what the topic will see about assessing the progress. How can assess the progress of a project? So some information used to assess the project of the to assess the progress of the project will be collected routinely, isn't it? So some types of information you have to collect it routinely, like what is the work done they have done today, how many documents they have prepared, what was the intermediate product, how many, what is the number of transactions, how many outputs, how many records are produced on today, like this. Some information used to assess the project progress will be collected routinely, whereas some other information they will be triggered by specific events. Only when some event will occur, it might be what collected at that time. Wherever possible, this information should be objective and tangible. Please try to extract the information, record the information in an objective and a tangible manner. Okay. So wherever possible, this information should be objective and tangible. For example, whether or not a particular report has been delivered. Okay. Whether a report, what report it has been taken or not, and it has been delivered or not, or it has been submitted or not to the immediate next authority. So those kind of information you should prepare, and those information should be very much objective and tangible and can be visualized, not like you will say intangible information, user satisfaction. It's not able to, you cannot measure what is the user satisfaction. So wherever possible, try to represent the information, try to make the information, try to document the information as far as the objective, and they should be tangible. Okay. It is very much essential to set a series of checkpoints in the initial activity plan. So while you are making the initial activity plan, you set a series of checkpoints. What is a checkpoint? Checkpoint means some predetermined times when the progress is checked. So during the development of the project, you set some points, and during those points you check the progress. Like every week, suppose you have put, every month you put a checkpoint, and on that day you say that every month 31st we all will meet. So that every month 30 or 31st, that the checkpoint, you will call the employees working with you and discuss about the progress. So that is a checkpoint then. So checkpoints means these are predetermined times or predetermined points of times when progress is checked. The checkpoints could be of two types. They can be event driven or they can be time driven. Event driven means what? Here the check takes place when a particular event occurs. Okay, so event driven, as its name suggests, the check takes place when a particular event has been achieved. For example, like tied to specific events such as production of a report or other deliverable. When one report, say monthly MIS report or sales report or admission report, you have got every month, you find out that here will not take into time only event when the final allotment is done, or one report has been done, or the sales report when it is printed, you say that is a checkpoint. So here time is not taken into account, only when some event occurs, maybe printing out a report or producing a report. Then when any report is coming, any report is produced, you say that is one checkpoint. Okay. Then next one, time driven. Time driven means the date of the check is predetermined or it is regular. Okay. It is here is a timing component attached. So the date of the check is predetermined or it is regular. You can say that okay, every month first, or you can say every week or every month. So here the check, when it will perform, that is predetermined. The date of the check is predetermined, or it could be regular, like weekly, monthly, etc. Okay, these are two checkpoints. These checkpoints can be used to assess the progress of a project. So as I have already told you that reporting we have just seen that the different methods of reporting, and the major methods are like oral or written, formal or informal, or regular or ad hoc like that. But now we'll see what should be the frequency of reporting. Whether this reporting should be made on every day or every week or every month or once in a year or when some event will occur. Let's say the frequency of project progress reports, it will depend upon the size and degree of the risks of the project. What is the size of a project? How much risk is involved there? So the frequency of the progress reports, it will depend upon the size of the project as well as degree of risk of the project. The higher the management level, less frequent is the reporting, isn't it? And less detailed the reporting needs to be. Say the steering committee or the project manager. So as you go up in the hierarchy of the project management, the frequency of reporting is less as well as the content of the details is less. So the higher the management level, the less frequent, that is longer the gaps between checkpoints and less detailed the reporting needs to be. For example, as I have already told you, team leaders may assess progress daily, whereas managers do monthly or weekly. We have already seen this. So the project manager may report to the steering committee maybe weekly or monthly, but the team leaders, they must report to their project manager every day. So as you go up, frequency of reporting should be less and the content of the report should be less. But as you go bottom, frequency of reporting is more and the content of the report document also more. Okay. Measure or project level, okay. Measure or project level, the progress review generally take place at particular points during the life of a project, and those things are commonly known as review points or control points. Okay. At the project level or the major progress reviews, when do they take place? Major or project level progress reviews generally they take place at some particular points during the life of a project. These particular points are known as review points or control points. Now let's see how to collect the progress details. I have already told you one agenda was collecting the information regarding the project. How can collect the progress details? There is a need to collect the data about achievements and the costs. In order to collect the progress details, we need to collect the data about the achievements that you have met and the cost that has been incurred or that may be incurred. A big problem in collecting the data regarding the progress details of a project is how to deal with the partial completions. You might have known in software engineering paper 99% completion syndrome. What does it mean that? Anytime you go to a developer farm, they will say, okay, we have completed almost 1 day you will take. You please come up to 1 month. Whenever again you will go to after 1 month, okay, we have just only few percent left. We have done 95% thing under 5%. So anytime you go, they will say that 99% is complete, only 1% is left because they are not able to complete the project. So, and if the project is not complete, they cannot give that the full data. They cannot give all data regarding the project. This is known as 99% completion syndrome. So a big problem in collecting progress details is how to deal with the partial completions. That problem is known as 99% completion syndrome. The possible solutions to 99% completion syndrome, there are many solutions. We will discuss here only two. We will name only two. One is control of products, not the activities. You try to control the products, not the activities or the processes you are doing. Number two, subdivide the project into lots of sub-activities. Okay, the whole project can be divided into some activities. The activities can be divided into some sub-activities. Each sub-activity can be divided into some sub-activities. So if you do this,
then probably since the size of this since the size of the work to be done is now small, so perhaps this 99% completion syndrome will not come. You assign the required project persons, required staff members, they can complete it as quick as possible. Okay. Now let's see how to collect the. As a rule, the manager should try to break down the long activities into more controllable tasks of 1 or 2 weeks duration. I have already told you WBS, work breakdown structure. You should try to develop the whole project into some activities. Each activity can be further divided into sub activities like this, and this decomposition should continue up to that till the point where each sub activity can be completed within 1 to 2 weeks of duration. So as a manager, try to divide the long activities, try to decompose the long activities into smaller activities of duration 1 to 2 weeks of duration, which can be better controllable. Still, it will be necessary to gather information about the partially completed activities and in particular forecasts of how much work is left to be completed. Even if you divide into smaller activities, still then you have to collect information about the partially completed activities. Particularly, you have to collect information and you have to forecast the thing that is here, how much work is still left to be completed. It can be very much difficult to make such forecast accurately at an early stage. Where there is a series of products, partial completion of activity is easier to estimate. Okay, so when there is a series of products, then partial completion of activities is quite easier to estimate. For let us take an example. For example, counting the number of record specifications or screen layouts produced can provide a reasonable measure of the progress. You want to know what is the progress of your project. And if your project is based on completion of some records, some data entry, some records per day, how many records you are entering. So if you can count the number of record specifications daily that you have made, that can be good measures, reasonably measure of progress. Similarly, per day, how many screen layouts you have produced, that is another reasonable measure of progress. Okay, so what I am saying here, where there is a series of products, then partial completion of activities is easier to estimate. Here an example we have taken. For example, counting the number of record specifications or counting the screen layouts produced, they can provide a reasonable measure of progress. In some cases, the intermediate products can also be used as activity milestones. Okay, in some of the cases, the intermediate products can also be used as activity milestones. For example, the first successful compilation of a program. Say I am not fully compiled. So after compiling, you have to give input, then it will generate the output, etc. But the first successful compilation of a C program or C++ program, this is an intermediate step. That can also be used. If your first program, first version you have successfully compiled, okay, one milestone you have achieved. And that is it. In some cases, the intermediate products, I am not saying the final products, the end products, the intermediate products, they can also be used as activity milestones. And one example here it is taken, the first successful compilation of a program. It might be considered as a milestone, even though it is not a final product. The first successful compilation is not the end product, because after that I have to give input, then I will get the output. But still, even if this is an it is an intermediate milestone, but still this will give some idea of the progress of your project. Then we will come about the partial completion reporting and how they can be handled. Okay, just 1 second, please. Partial completion reporting, let's see in detail. Many organizations, they use standard accounting systems, okay? So there are several organizations who use standard accounting systems with weekly timesheets to charge staff time to individual jobs. There are other standard packages, accounting packages are there. They use them to charge the staff time to the individual or to the particular jobs. Many organizations use standard accounting systems with weekly timesheets to chart the staff time to the individual jobs or to the particular jobs. The staff time that is booked to a project, it indicates what? What does the staff time represent? The staff time which is booked to project to a project, it indicates the work that is carried out and the charges to the project. What work is carried out and how much charge or how much price will be charged to the project. The drawback of the staff time or this accounting systems is that the standard accounting system is that it does not tell the project manager what has been produced or whether the tasks are on schedule or not. So this staff time you are calculating with the standard accounting systems. The drawback is that it does not tell the project manager what has been produced. So what thing has been produced, what is the output, what has been produced, or it also does not say anything else whether the tasks are on schedule. They are on the schedule, there is no schedule slippage.
Hello.
Yes.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
The
Yes,
slides
please.
are not visible to us.
Okay, let's see. It is happened. So since when it is not visible?
So from 99% completion, that slide onwards.
Okay. Otherwise, you will again just 1 minute, please. Let's. It should not happen. Is it now visible? Just say hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have discussed about this how to collect the data. So some examples of this collecting the data we have seen, like I have already told you that where there is a series of products, then partial completion of the activities is easier to estimate. Some examples we have told, like if you are counting the number of record specifications, or if you are counting the screen of layouts produced, then you can get a reasonable measure of the progress of the project. And in some cases, even if you are not using the end products, if you are also able to assess the intermediate products, they can be also considered, they can be used to measure the progress of this project. In some cases, the intermediate products, they can also be used as the activity milestones. And the example I have taken, that the first successful compilation of a program that you have written in C or C++, that can also be considered as a milestone, even if it is not a final product. It is just an intermediate product. So then we'll see in the details of the partial completion reporting. I was saying that many organizations, they use some standard accounting systems, might be EX Tally or so. Many organizations, they use standard accounting systems with the weekly timesheets to compute the charge, or to find the to charge or find the staff time to the individual or the particular jobs or the projects or the activities. The staff time booked to a project, it indicates what? What do you mean by the staff time here? The staff time booked to a project, it indicates the work that is carried out and the charges that has to be made to the project. The drawback here is that I have already told you that the organizations, or many organizations, they use standard accounting systems to charge the staff time. And what is staff time? I have already told you. Staff time, it indicates the work carried out and the charges to the project. But the drawback of this staff time that you are computing is that it does not tell the project manager what has been produced, what item has been produced, okay, what thing has been produced, or whether the tasks are on schedule, whether all the tasks they are on schedule. They are as the you have made a plan, all the tasks are completed or performed according to the schedule, according to the plan. Okay, so the stop time that is computed by the standard accounting systems, they may not tell, sometimes they may not tell the project manager what has been produced, what thing has been produced, or what item has been produced, and or whether all the tasks they are on the schedule. Therefore, it is very much common to adopt or enhance the existing accounting data collection systems to meet the needs of the project control. Since I have already told you, the standard accounting systems, while computing the stop times, they are having drawbacks because they do not give the information about what thing has been done or what item has been produced or what tax or whether the tax are on schedule. So there is a need to adopt or to enhance the existing these accounting systems to meet the needs of the project control to overcome these drawbacks. So that's why one example we'll see here how that can be enhanced, how the standard accounting packages they can be enhanced. One example is taken weekly time sheets. If you can prepare the weekly time sheets, okay, so for example, weekly time sheets are frequently adopted by the breaking jobs down to activity level. So you can use weekly time sheets to further break the jobs down to activity level. One job can be divided into so many activities. One activity can be divided into so many sub activities, and that can be represented using a form, using a document called as weekly time sheets. So, for example, they are frequently adapted by breaking jobs down to activity level and requiring information about the work done in addition to time spent. So now here, in addition, because I have already told you, drawback is they does not represent the standard accounting system. They do not represent what is produced or whether the tax are on schedule or not. If we use a weekly time sheet, this weekly time sheet, how we will prepare it? We'll break a job into several activity level, into several activities. Each activity will be divided into some activities. Then time to represent the information about the time here. Now back that what is being produced that was not represented standard accounting system. Now that is in weekly time sheet. Along with the time, we are also the information about the work done, what activity you have done, what task you have done. So now this drawback is overcome by using time sheets, weekly time sheets. In the next figure, an example of this weekly time sheet shown. Let's say the next figure shows an example of form requesting information about the likely slippage of completion dates as well as estimates of the completeness. So this is an example of weekly time sheet and progressive report. On top you have to write the name of the staff, for which week you are doing, say week ending 30th of March 2007. Then you are writing the time, the period duration. You are divided into two types of hours, rechargeable hours and non-rechargeable hours. For these hours you have to pay some money, but for the non-rechargeable hours you need not to pay some money. Then what is the project code? Say, because one person may be assigned to many projects. So what is the project ID? Which activity you have dealt with? So activity code. Description of the activity, say A243 represents coding module A3. Hours in this week you have worked 12 hours. So how much percentage you have completed? So suppose you have completed 30%. And what is the schedule completion? 24/4/07. What is the estimated completion? Same date. So there is no delay. But the second activity document taken. How much hours you have taken? 20 hours. How much percentage you have completed? 90%. And the schedule completion is 6/4/07. And what is the estimated completion? You have estimated it should be completed by April 4th. But you are saying that the schedule completion as per your progress, it will be finished on 6th. That means 2 days it will take extra. 2 days, how you will complete compensate it, you have to think of as a project manager, whether you will bring more manpower from the non-critical tasks to this, or you will hire additional manpower, or you will tell these existing persons to do overtime like this, because there is a clear picture that there is expected that 2 days will be delayed. Accordingly, you have to take the corrective measures. So how much total rechargeable hours for which money has to pay to John Smith? 32 hours. There may be some non-rechargeable hours like code Z99, and description is that day in lieu of something. Okay, and hours this week. Suppose you are you have some other work, you have not done that thing, and in lieu of that you are doing this thing. Just like you are taking the compensatory classes. One class is missed, I have to take another class. That is not chargeable. So similarly, one day he has not worked. This is the work is doing in the for the day in lieu of some previous day, and comment on authorization this work, because you cannot just do, you say that I cannot say that I will take all the classes on Sundays, I will not take regular classes, I will take the classes Sundays. So that has to take some authorization. So comment on authorization. So this leave, so you know, in our department HOD is authorized to give the compensatory leaves. If some Sunday I have called a person to do some work, I can give you a compensatory leave. In some other day HOD can give. So what is the comment and authorization? Who has authorized that information? It is authorized by RB. So total non-chargeable hours is 8. Like this, you can prepare a weekly timesheet and a progressive form. Okay. So other reporting templates are also possible. This is one I have already told you. This is this weekly timesheets. Other methods are possible. Other representations are also possible. So other reporting templates are also possible. For example, rather than asking for estimates of percentage complete, here we have asked what is the estimate percentage of complete, 30% or 90%. So instead of asking this for estimates of percentage of complete, some managers, they would prefer to ask for the number of hours already worked on the task. How much hours you have already worked, and an estimate of the number of hours needed to finish this task. Okay, so how much hour you have already worked, and what is the time you estimate you will take more, how much hour you are estimating to take more to complete the task, instead of asking percentage exactly. Suppose here he is saying that if 100% the total work, 30% you have completed, so 70% is left, and in this case 90% is completed, 10% is left. And another method that some managers will say no, not in terms of percentage. Total hours you will be required, say 50 hours to complete the job. So far today, up to today, how many hours you have finished, and how much hours you are estimating to take. So by today 20 hours you have finished, 30 hours it is supposed to take, but you are estimating no, some major difficulty there, I will take 35 hours. So what is an estimate of the number of hours that will take in? So this is another way. So other reporting templates are also possible. For example, here you have taken that rather than asking for the estimates of percentage complete like shown here 30-90. So the some managers would prefer to ask for the number of hours already worked on the task and an estimate of the number of hours needed to finish the task up or complete the task up. There's an interesting method I will say to handle partial reporting, because I am only showing partial reporting. You are saying 30% complete, 90% complete. Then you have to match the target, whether you can finish the job within the schedule or not. How to know this thing? For that, one important method is there. Let's quickly see it on this. Called as red, amber, green reporting. What do you mean by red, amber, green reporting? Well, this is red, amber, green reporting. This is one of the popular way of overcoming the objections to partial completion reporting. Okay, there are some observations, somewhat maybe drawbacks or so. So how they can be removed? One popular way of overcoming the objections to partial completion reporting is avoid asking for estimated completion dates. Don't ask your subordinates what is the estimated completion dates. But what should you ask? Ask the team members, estimate the likelihoods of meeting the planned target date. What is the possibility? What is the probability? What is the likelihood that you can meet the planned target date? Okay, so don't ask always how many days are you require. Instead of that, you can ask what is the probability, what is the likelihood that you can meet the planned target dates. That's one of the best way. One popular way of overcoming some of the objections to partial completion reporting is to avoid asking for the estimated completion dates, rather, but to ask instead for the team members' estimates of the likelihood of meeting the planned target date, or estimates of the probability of meeting the planned target date. One way of doing the above thing is by using the traffic light method. Let's see what is the traffic light method. You know, in traffic light method, there are three colors. You can call the green, then amber or yellow, and red. Let's see how we can use this red, amber, green reporting method for partial completion, or for partial completion reporting. So this the red, amber, green reporting method, it consists of the following steps. First step is identify the key elements for assessment in a piece of work. What are the key elements? What are the first level elements for assessment in a piece of work? Then break these key elements into some constituent elements, second level. So like just first you have divided the project into some activities. Each activity is divided into then next level, second level sub activities. Then in the third level, each sub activity can be divided into some sub activities. Like this, you follow a hierarchical decomposition method of the activities. Then assess each of the second level elements on the scale like this. So you have to assess each of these second level element on the scale. What is the scale? Green, amber, red. Green means if you are on the green zone, you can give like 30% to each, 30% for green zone, 30% for amber, or 33% for green, 33% for amber, and for red. If you are in the green zone, what does it mean? You are on target. You are moving according to target, no problem. Green for on target. If you are in amber zone, what does it represent? Amber for not on target. You are not on target but recoverable. Still, if you can make some plan, then you can be brought back. And red means red for not on target. You are not on target and recoverable only with difficulty. You can revert back. You can get back to complete the project to the target with a lot of difficulty. So red means for not on target and recoverable only with difficulty. The next step is review all the second level assessments to arrive at first level assessments. Then review the first and second level assessments to produce an overall assessment of the project. Okay, now let's see activity. What remedial action, what corrective action you will take if you are in green zone or amber zone or red. So following completion of the assessment form for all activities, the project manager uses these as a basis for evaluating the overall status of the project. Okay. Following completion of the assessment forms for all the activities, the project manager may use these as a basis for evaluating the overall status of the project. Now let's see what you will do if in amber or red state or red zone. Any critical activity, please say I am saying critical activity, any critical activity which is classified as an amber activity or red activity, this will require further consideration and often leads to a revision of the project schedule, because there is a possibility that you may not meet the target. So you have to revise your project schedule. You may have to bring more manpower, or the target date has to be shifted like this, because there is less chance that you will meet the project targets. Any critical activity classified as amber or red will require further consideration and may often lead to a revision of the project schedule. The non-critical activities are likely to be considered as a problem if they are classified as red. So now if the non-critical activity, though definitely 1 day delay is not allowed. Normally non-critical activity, they are having some float time or slack time. So but if their float is going to be consumed, so there are only 3 days float time. But by delaying by 3 days, when you are already delayed 3 days, then that float will be 0. That means that will become critical activity, and you are moving to the red zone. So you have to now rethink, you have to replan, you have to revise the plan, or you have to take remedial action. Remedial action? The non-critical activities, they are likely to be considered as a problem if they are classified as red, particularly if all their float is likely to be consumed just within few days. Then you should take precautionary action, because once this float is coming to zero, then that non-critical activity will become critical, and you cannot make even 1 day delay, because the whole project will be delayed. So you have to give particular attention to the non-critical activities if their float is likely to be consumed soon. This is an activity assessment sheet. This is, you can say that this is a sample traffic light assessment form. Here we are writing the name of the staff, then a reference number, activity, code, test module. What is the activity? So this sheet is for the activity code and testing, coding and testing of module C. First we have taken the week number, then activity summary, that in 13th week you are in green zone, no problem. In 14th you are in onboard zone. That means by this time, if you have already just entering into the critical zone, so you have to make some plan. But A means it is on target, not on target, but can be recoverable. And R means red. By 16th week you are red. That means gradually you are getting delayed from 13 while you are moving to this. By 14th you are just little bit danger warning you are getting, because you are on board. But still, if you can take some precautionary step, you can revert back. You can the project can be brought back to target. But at end of 16th week it is coming, or at the while you are entering to 16th week you are entering to red zone. That means you are not on target as well. It is very difficult to bring the project back. So you have to take immediately the plan what you have made. You have to immediately apply it, so that you will try to bring the project back. So this is the overall activity summary. These are component wise, like scaling procedures. 13th week it is in green, then number. Again you have taken, while number you have taken some steps, so that by 16th week you are again entered into green zone, no problem. Similarly, you just see the green, amber and red activities for the the lights or the values of what are the possible conclusions you can draw if you are in green, if the activity is marked as green or amber or red for the different components. For the different components, what should be the traffic light already shown here, like green, amber and red, and what inference, what conclusion you can draw, that already it has been told to you. Accordingly, you just develop a sample activity assessment sheet using traffic light assessment. Then you will see the last portion of today. I think this is the review. So how you can review a software or a code from a manager's point of view. From a manager's perspective, review of work products is a very important mechanism for monitoring the progress of a project and ensuring the quality of the work products. Normally, every project is developed through a number of iterations over a large number of work products. The work products could be requirement documents, design documents, project plan document, users manuals, code, etc. Each of these work products can have a large number of defects in them due to mistakes committed by the development team members, isn't it? There might be mistake in SRS document. There might be mistake in design documents such as DFDs and UML diagrams. There might be mistake in the code, and these mistakes might be committed by the development team. That's why, since it is possible that mistakes might be there in every or in such types of documents, it is very much necessary to eliminate as many defects in these work products to realize a product of acceptable quality. So these products should be of acceptable quality. You should try to eliminate as many defects as possible. So how you can eliminate the defects? One mechanism is testing. So testing is known to be, it is an effective defect removal mechanism, but the problem is that testing can be applicable only to executable code. But we are having several other products like SRS document, design documents, project plan document, user manual, etc. For them, you cannot apply testing. Testing is applicable only to executable code. But there are some non-executable work products such as SRS document, design documents, etc. Then how the defects can be removed from them? Here we have told that testing is a good defect removal mechanism, but testing is applicable only to executable code. Then the question is, how can the defects from the non-executable work products can be removed? What are the examples of non-executable work products? Such as requirements document, design documents, etc. So for them, we can use review as the defect removal mechanism. You can use testing as the defect removal mechanism for the executable code, and you can use the review as the defect removal mechanism for the non-executable work products such as SRS. So review is a very effective technique to remove defects from all types of work in non-executable work products and executable code. In removing the defects as compared to testing. The early review techniques, they were focused on code, and the systematic review techniques were developed for this specific purpose. That means previously review techniques were applied only on code. But over the years, these review techniques now they have also applied on what non-executable codes. But over the years, the review techniques have become extremely popular, and they have been generalized for use with other work products such as the non-executable work products such as SRS document, design documents, etc. So review can be used both for the executable code and for non-executable work products. What are the utility of review? I have already told you. Review is a cost-effective defect removal mechanism. It helps the project managers to identify any deviation from the standards, including issues that might affect the maintenance of the software. And then how can improve the work products, the non-executable work products, or even if the codes, executable codes. Reviewer suggests that these are some of the ways to improve the work products, such as you can use algorithms that are more time and space efficient, isn't it? You have already seen the complexity, whether it is order of n square, or order of nq, or exponential or logarithmic. So use algorithms that are of more time efficient and space efficient, having better time complexity and space complexity. Use specific work simplifications. Don't use work simplifications. Use particular work simplifications. Use better technology opportunities that can be exploited, etc. So these are some of the ways which can be used to improve the work products. Okay. In addition to defect identification, a review meeting often provides learning opportunities. So by performing review, you can learn the mistakes that you have committed in the past. You can get some experience. You can learn from your past experience. In addition to defect identification, a review meeting often provides you the learning opportunities to not only the author of a work product, but also the other participants of the review meeting. You can learn from your past mistakes. You can learn from your past experience. Okay. The review participants, they gain a good understanding of the work product under review, making it easier for them to interface or use the work product in their work. So, okay, the who are involved in the review meeting, the review participants, they gain a good understanding of what? The good understanding of the work product which is under review, which makes it easier for them to interface or use that work product in their work, or they may use that work product in their work. Okay. they can use that particular work product in their work, how they can use that specific or particular or work product, maybe design document or what you can say test plan, etc. in their work, how they can use that work product in their work, they can learn from the review meetings. Now let's see what can be reviewed. What are the candidate work products for review? Previously we have known only code can be reviewed. No, there are several other non-executable work products that can be reviewed. Let's see what are the work products that can be reviewed. All interim and final work products, they are intended for review. Okay, whether it is a final work product or it is an interim intermediate work product, that can be reviewed. Usually the work products considered to be suitable candidates for review are as follows. So some of the things, many things can be reviewed. I have given few examples here, like the SRS document, it can be reviewed. That is the requirement specification documents that can be reviewed. User interface specification and design documents, architectural high level and detailed design documents, they can be reviewed. The test plans that you have made for conducting testing and the design the test cases. The project management plan, I have already told you SPMP while discussing a first or second class, SPMP, software project management plan. So software project management plan and configuration management plan, then risk management plan, all they are candidates for review. Okay, these are few examples of the candidates for review. Those have been mentioned. Now let's quickly see what are the different review roles to whom they can be given. In every review meeting, a few key roles need to be assigned to review the team members. Okay, so in every review meeting, a few key roles need to be assigned to the review team members. What are the roles? Three important roles you have to assign to the team members in the review process. They are moderator, a recorder, and a reviewer. Let's see what are the responsibilities of each role. What is the responsibility of moderator? What is the responsibility of recorder? And what is the responsibility of reviewer? Moderator. This responsibility is quite easy. Moderator plays a key role in the reviewing process. Okay, so normally, just like as you know, any meeting, every meeting or somewhere else, you are doing some group discussion. There a moderator is required. So moderator, he plays a key role in the review process. What are the responsibilities of the moderator? The principal responsibilities of the moderator include the following. He has to schedule and convene all the meetings. He has to distribute the review materials among the team members. He has to lead and moderate the review sessions. He has to ensure that the defects are tracked to closure. He will ensure that all the defects they have been identified, they are tracked to closure. He has to ensure that the defects are tracked to closure. Similarly, what the recorder does, the main role is to record the defects found. He also records the time spent in the review meetings. He also records the effort required to collect the data. He has to also record the effort required to collect the data. Similarly, reviewer, there can be more than one reviewer in that review team, but normally one moderator, one recorder, but there can be more than one review member. The review team members, their responsibilities are as follows. They review the different work products and they give specific suggestions to the author who has made this work product about the existing defects and their locations where the defects lies, and they also point out the ways to improve the work product. Okay, they will identify that, okay, these are the defects and how to overcome defects, how to remove the defects, how to correct the defects. They also point out ways to improve the work product by removing these defects. So these are the responsibility of these review team members. Now let's quickly see what are the steps involved in the review process. So the review of any work product consists of the following activities. Okay, the review process consists of 4 steps. The review process consists of the following 4 activities: planning, review preparation and overview, then carrying out or conducting the review meeting, and finally rework and follow. Okay,
So these 4 steps can be represented as a figure. These 4 steps can be represented as a figure. The figure is shown here. So first step is work planning. You have to give your work product as input to the planning. Then you have to prepare for the review meeting. So review team and the schedule that will be supplied to the preparation. You will take the preparation before conducting the meeting. Then you will prepare a report called as reviewers logs. Then this will be passed as an input to review meeting. Now the meeting will be carried out. And after review meeting, the members will identify the defects. All those defects will be maintained in the document called as defect log. And then finally, you have to see the rework, whether all the work have been done properly or not. You have to follow up to remove all these defects. Finally, you will get a summary report. This is how the report process, review process, the model for the review process. Then we'll just quickly, I have already explained the steps. Quickly, we'll just see, you can read yourself. I have already told you in planning what you have to do. You have to make planning for the review. Once the author of the work product is ready for submitting the work for review, the project manager nominates a moderator. The moderator has to be nominated by the project manager. A moderator can be someone who is familiar with the work product, isn't it? Who already knows, who is familiar with the work product. Any of the person who is familiar with the work product can be the moderator. In consultation with the moderator, a project manager nominates the other members of the review team. So after finding the moderator, 2 other roles are there: recorder and reviewer. So in consultation with the moderator, the project manager nominates or appoints the other members of the review team, such as recorder and the review members. Usually, the review process works best when the number of members is between 5 and 7. So normally in a project review team, 5 to 7 members are there. The effectiveness of a review, it drastically reduces if there are less than 3 members. So normally it should be 5 to 7. Similarly, the review team is usually selected from the following types of project team members. So that 5 to 7 members can be taken from the following team members, following types of project team members. First, the author should be included in this meeting. The author of the preceding work product, based on with the work project under review was developed. So the author of the preceding work product should be. Then the member who would use the work product under review. Who will use the work product which is under review? He will be also a member. The peers of the author also may be considered, may be taken in the team. They can be members. The authors of the work products that would interface with the work product under review. So one work product might be maybe one code may be interfaced with some other codes. So the authors of other codes also they will be membered here. And the moderator usually schedules all the review meetings. So somebody should convene the meetings. Who will convene? The moderator normally convenes all the review meetings. Like this, all other steps, please read yourself. So planning we have seen. Similarly, preparation it is easy. Please read yourself. That means to initiate the review process, the moderator convenes a brief preparation meeting. So before the actual review meeting, a brief preparation meeting is convened by the moderator. Okay, these things are easy. Please read yourself. Like in this meeting, only the copies of the work product are distributed among the review team members. The author presents a brief overview of the work product. Then the moderator highlights what is the objective of the review, and the reviewers then individually carry out the review. The review team members then individually carry out the review and record their observations where in a document called as the review. Then the actual review meeting takes place. In this meeting, the reviewers give their comments, their observations based on the logs they have prepared. The author responds to all the comments raised by the review members. Other reviewers also participate in the discussion. And then there is a person called as recorder. The recorder, he writes all the defects and the points that the author agrees to, and the review statistics in the form of a review log. So now the recorder will prepare the review log where he will write down all the defects, the details of the defects and the points that the author agrees to the defects and the points that the author agrees to and the review statistics. Okay, this will be written in the form of a review. Then is rework. The author addresses all the issues. Okay, because reviewers has given some comments. These are the mistakes. These are the defects. So now this will be passed on to the author who has prepared. He has to address all.
The author addresses all the issues raised by the reviewers. How? By carrying out necessary modifications to the work products, and he prepares a rejoinder. Rejoinder means rebuttal, response to the comments made by the reviewers. Just like though you will do this while you are submitting papers to journals, you get some comments from the reviewers. Then you have to prepare a rebuttal or rejoinder. That means a response to the comments. They have given this comment. Yes, I have done in this page like this. I have made the changes. That is known as rejoinder. The corrected work product along with the rejoinder is circulated again among all the review team members, and then a final brief. In a final brief meeting, the review team members again they check. That is the rework. They again check whether all the issues described in the review log have been resolved satisfactorily or not. They have suggested whether the author has changed all those things. They will just review again. In a final brief meeting, the review team members they check whether all the issues described in the review log have been resolved satisfactorily or not. If not, again they will send back this their observations or the revised file to the author. No, we have not made so many changes, so many suggestions or comments are not addressed. Again, you please change. So again they may change. Again they may send back the work product to the author with their comment. This will take a iteration. This will take a loop till the reviewers are satisfied. Yes, all whatever suggestions or comments we have given, they are addressed. The author has corrected, the author has addressed all the issues and resubmitted, then they can agree and they can close the chapter there. At the end of the meeting, a final summary report is prepared. So the reviewers are satisfied. Okay, all the defects have been now removed. At the end of the meeting, then a final summary report is prepared. So these are the 4 steps that we have seen. Those are involved in the review process. And then final step is data collection, how to collect the data. The results of the review meetings, they should be properly recorded, they should be properly documented. The data about the time spent by the reviewers in the review activity must also be captured. How much time the reviewers have spent in reviewing the document, in reviewing the design document or the code, that has to be particularly mentioned. Okay, that has to be particularly captured and mentioned. The data about the time spent by the reviewers in the review activity must also be captured. A record of the defect data is needed for tracking defects in the project. So what are the defects you have found? You must have to record it. That will help you the tracking defects in the project maybe in near future. A record of the defect data is also needed for tracking the defects in the project. So the defect data which may be needed for tracking defects in the project. Okay. So please prepare a record of the defects or defect data that you have found during your review. The different reports in with the review data are captured as follows. You can see in this figure there are different. One is log, another defect log, summary report, etc. These are the different reports that you have to maintain during the review process. So what are the contents of those things? I have just written, you just read like what reports you may require. These are the reports you may require. One is review preparation log. So this review preparation log requires, it contains what? It contains data about the defects, their locations, their criticality, total time spent in doing the review, etc. This will be the review preparation log. Review log will contain what? It will contain the defects that are which are agreed to by the author. Review log will contain what? The defects that are agreed to by the author. And finally, you have to prepare a review summary report. This report will contain summary of the review data, and it also presents an overall picture of the review. It also contains the information regarding the total number of defects and the total time spent in identifying the defects. Just it is a detail of these defects and about how much the information about the total defects, the location, and the total time spent in identifying this defect. All are present in the review summary report. Not only that, the observations, what suggestions the reviewers are given, they may be also placed in the review summary report. So 3 documents will require. review preparation log, review log, and review summary report. Let's see how. So after preparing or for this preparation, you require a review preparation, isn't it? After this, so first document review preparation log. So review preparation log. After this, you can use after this review preparation. So here for preparation, you might require a review preparation log. Then is review log. Here you can see to prepare a review log. Okay, so after finding this what or after conducting the review meeting, you can prepare a review log. These reviewers, they write down their observations in the review log, that is passed to the review meeting, then you get the defect log. So in between maybe the preparation step and the review meeting, this step, these specs you might use a reviewers log, and the final one is what? Final one is this review summary. That means after this rework is done, after the rework and follow up is over, the final output is the summary report. The summary report will contain what? The summary of the review data. Also, it presents an overall picture of the review. It also contains the information regarding the total defects and the total time spent in identifying or in carrying out the review process. Okay, so these review reports are required during the review process. The different reports in which the review data are captured are as follows: the review preparation log, the review log, and the review summary report. So this is now let's conclude. Here this is the review process. The model, it captures the sequence of the activity that we carried out, the input to the activities and the output produced from the activity, isn't it? So this is the review process model. Here we have seen what input you are supplying to every activity, what output is produced from every activity, what steps you are following, and finally what output is produced. That is shown in this review process model. So this is easy. You please read yourself. So this is something about this review process. So so today we have the importance and need of project monitoring and control. We have explained the concept of project control cycle. We have shown the activities involved in project control cycle. We have also presented the different project reporting structures. We have also explained how to assess the progress of a project. So these things we have discussed today. Isn't it? We also have discussed how to collect the progress details of a project. We have explained the partial completion reporting method, that green, amber, red method. We have shown the traffic light method to handle the partial completion recording method that we have shown here. We have also presented how to carry out the project review. Okay, this we have taken from this software project management book. Please read yourself. Any doubt you can ask. If any doubt left, you can also ask on tomorrow, on next class. Now let's take up any other doubt, please.